Welcome to Tea with the Experts and Dr. Leah Merle, your premier destination for mental health insights, empowerment, and inspiration. Led by the passionate therapist and counselor educator, Dr. Leah Merle, this interview-style podcast delves deep into diverse themes with top-notch experts in the field. Beginning with the What Is series, from anxiety, trauma to resilience and mindfulness. We sip our way through captivating conversations, psychological insights, shedding light on the complexities of mental wellness and what it means to be a human being. Each episode serves up a refreshing blend of knowledge, empathy, and empowerment, aiming to destigmatize mental health issues and raise awareness in an engaging and approaching manner. So grab your favorite cuppa and get ready to step yourself into transformative conversations that will leave you feeling uplifted and enlightened. Subscribe now and join the movement to break down barriers and foster a more compassionate world.
Bye, mate.
Hi.
Good to see you.
See you.
Thanks so much for being here with us today on Tea with the Experts. I wanted to say, this is a big deal for us to be able to kind of come to Camp Hope and interview you directly.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, really appreciate your time.
Sure.
So firstly, tell us a little bit about how you got involved in homeless communities in the first place. Like, you're an executive director here at Camp Hope in Yakima. How did this journey start?
So actually, I started being involved with homelessness when I was in law enforcement.
Okay.
Right. So in the early 90s, it wasn't as prevalent as it is now.
Yes.
But there was still homeless. And how they were dealt with is very curt compared to what we deal with now.
Yeah.
And so, especially from a law enforcement approach. And so I had some experience dealing with those there.
Mm-hmm.
When I came up here, though, one thing that we were looking at was the homeless issue was right across from the police department. And, for whatever reason, somebody thought it was a great idea to put people on hot asphalt with substance use and behavioral health disorders, in August, and then not expect them to behave the way they were.
Yeah.
And that really bothered me to the core because there had to be a better solution than that.
Right.
Because they literally were just like they were caging animals down there. And so when we would go down there with youth groups or whatever, or just go down there to hang out and sit down and talk to people, we're hearing about them being victimized, about the community driving by, calling them names, throwing things, stuff like that. And a lot of them were like, this is why we go down by the river. This is why we go here. We don't feel safe.
Yeah.
And so when we got the opportunity, when the city approached, after the Boise lawsuit about, well, we want to try a low barrier. We only want to do it for 90 days. We know it's not going to work, but we want to be able to say we did it so we could check that box, right?
Yeah.
And be able to say, we did it, now let's put them in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was hired to look at that task by Transform Yakima, who had the contract for it, I said, well, I'm only interested if we're going to do something different. And so we actually, over some McDonald's cheeseburgers and some sodas, went down and I interviewed 50 people that were in street homelessness and said, what's a bare minimum you got to have? What would be a nice, what would just melt your mind, right? It'd just be the ultimate.
Ideal.
Yeah. The number one thing they said is we got to feel safe. It wasn't, well, I want to be able to do my drugs, which was the stigma that was out there. I want to be able to sleep with people. It wasn't any of that. It was, I just need to feel safe. And so when we started designing this, I kept going back to them and saying, well, what if we had these large tents and it was a dormitory where we can still make sure the stuff doesn't come in, but you have your own space. And so I'm not waking you up at 6 a.m. and say, get out. Yeah. Right. And we hope you survive till 6 p.m. when we'll let you back in. What if it's an all day type thing? And so we really kind of designed it off of that. And so that really kind of hooked me because I love being a voice for the people that don't have a voice. One reason I liked law enforcement was that you could protect people. You can say, kind of the same thing with the homeless up here. And so, when we started into that 90-day journey, they said, well, if you have 30 people, we'll call it a success. We had 53 the first night. We've never had any less. And so the first night looked like the fields that are out here. Yeah. And literally, they gave us 2 days notice. So we literally bought Cabela's tents, large camp tents that we could put up. They gave us enough money to buy 4 of them and 2 porta potties. And then we were literally down here with our push mowers, with our cars in a circle so that we could mow the field during the night. so that we would have a place for them to actually go.
Yeah.
And so it was just hugely successful because the big thing we heard from people is, you're treating me like I'm a
human being.
You're not treating me like I'm marginalized. You're not treating me like I am the criminal. That's a lot of the shelters that were open where, well, you have a criminal history, so therefore I'm going to treat you like X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And no, that's not what we didn't want to do at all. So that was super important to us, that we took that feedback. And so it's been kind of a living document, living organization, if you will.
Yeah.
From the whole time that we've been going.
That's absolutely amazing. So how long have you been going? Timeline.
So this is our 7th-year anniversary. 7? Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that, actually.
Right. So we started in 2017.
Yeah.
And then we evolved. And of course, people thought, well, we got to put you in a building. And we tried that. And it didn't fit. It didn't fit for our clientele. Mm-hmm. People kept using the term, I feel institutionalized.
Yeah.
So we advocated and we came back out here and we got big military tents from Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And, insulated the floors, all that kind of stuff. Put in an actual bathroom trailer and stuff like that. And we just saw the population grow. Mm-hmm. And what I found is it's become kind of an on-ramp for people to enter into homeless services because it's not brick and mortar.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not sleeping by the river.
Right.
It's in between. And as we've evolved, we've had several different shelter options that they get a say in. And that's the big thing for me, is that relationship model and that they have a say. Mm-hmm. I don't like it when somebody tells me this is what I'm going to do, right? And they know what's best for me and they know what's best for my child.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Mm-hmm. And so we try not to do that with them either. We give them options, the pros and cons of that. We bring in experts like we got to work with you. And so we'll just say, here's what we can do. What fits for you?
Right.
And you help design your own roadmap. Mm-hmm. So yeah, 7 years. It's been a long 7 years.
I bet.
But it's been very good.
Yeah. So what would you say the structure is like? How have you built the structure regarding safety in mind, of course, but also what you've just shared is keeping the individual's voice, that human element in mind. What does that look like?
So one of the things that's really important to me as executive directors, I make sure that people understand the why I'm doing it so they understand the how. Okay. So like when you come into Camp Hope, everybody gets searched. That comes in,
yeah.
Right? Everybody. Mm-hmm. Their bags get searched, their pockets, you metal wand them, like you went at an airport or a sporting event, something like that. We're very vigilant with our rounds that we do. So, we want them to feel safe. We're very visible. So like if you see our staff, we're wearing bright, vivid, blue.
Yeah.
Right. Because we want them to know this is a safe person. Not wonder. When I started looking around at other shelters and when I consult with other shelters, it's hard to tell who the good guys are and who are the bad guys trying to get in to do bad things.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was one thing that we came up with. We explained to people why we give them the paper bracelet every day so that we know that you checked in. We know we've given you all the messages that came in for you. We've done all of our stuff. But it allows them to also know who's safe and who's not. Right. That's just a quick visual check. Well, this person did the same safety check that I did. Mm-hmm. That was huge for people. Part of the thing that I've done in the last few years, I have a director's council where I have people that are in each dormitory that are elected by their peers, and I meet with them. And so one of the things they heard was a lot of them are really serious about they want to stay clean and sober. And it's so hard to stay clean and sober when it's everywhere.
It is. Right? Yeah.
So we have our own group, and so hard it comes down. It's not punitive. We give them the opportunity to surrender what they have. It's not shunned, right? So it's not like, oh, you're out. It's okay, Leah, you turned in your stuff. That's great. With the dog found the stuff. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the resources we have for you. You can make the choice to go to Triumph, Comprehensive, wherever it may be. We're going to help you. We'll secure your stuff while you're in treatment. We'll do all this other kind of stuff for you so that we've knocked away every barrier there is. And sometimes people just go, no, I got caught. I'm going to leave. And most of the time they go, well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Right. And so we built this culture of where it's important to me. This feels like family shelter, not homeless shelter.
Yes.
So we celebrate birthdays. We celebrate sobriety days. We celebrate kids' birthdays. We do Christmas down here.
Holidays. I know we do Thanksgiving. We do Thanksgiving.
Christmas, I'll dress like Santa, and we have other people that dress like elves, and all the kids get presents. All the adults get presents here through our church networks that we have. And then maybe a box with a book, some socks, candy, whatever, but it's something tangible, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I'm really proud of with our folks is that we've instilled kind of a service element into them as well. So, like Thanksgiving, we'll do our meal about 12, and then literally the line that they went through transforms into an to-go line, and we start packaging clamshells, right, with traditional dinners, and then they get to sign up and they go out with the outreach team, and we're serving people in the streets, right, or elderlies that are shut in, or whatever it may be. Yeah. Same thing with Christmas. The biggest problem I have is that I don't have enough vehicles for everybody that wants to go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is a cool problem to have.
That is a great problem to have.
Right. And so it takes away some of the trauma of Thanksgiving in my family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with that service element, they deal with that. They do snow removal for people. They split wood, for widows and shut-ins. They do, the big thing that I love about our culture is we don't do a lot of this in a year.
Yeah.
We have people that say, I want my contribution to this community is I want to help clean the bathroom. I want to help serve dinner, or I want to help fold the 300 towels a day that we wash, or whatever it may be. They get to have some skin in the game without it being told, if you don't do this, I'm going to kick you out. And I think that's the big thing that really lends to them feeling safe, where they can be vulnerable, start sharing traumas. The other big thing that we did is that when you come in, you're assigned a case manager, and that case manager is going to follow you through all of our difference.
I see.
We don't shift case managers depending on what's going on, all that kind of stuff. And that's huge for us. And then they get to build that bond. That case manager knows the person inside and out, knows their traumas, all that stuff. So, whether they're going to court and advocating for the person, or housing application, whatever it may be, that case manager sticks with them.
It's a relationship, obviously, that building.
Yeah. And then we also made it where, as I tell them, is, I look at this as like we're trying to shepherd a flock, right?
Yes.
And so it's really important that the shepherd has the smell of the sheep on. Mm-hmm. And so I can't be an effective CEO if I'm sitting in office somewhere offsite looking at a P&L sheet.
Right. It's not out front.
No.
Yeah, with the people.
No. So it's not uncommon for me to be out here at night working a night shift. It's not uncommon for me to be doing outreach or whatever it may be, because I want them to see me out there with them. Right. We also give them everybody comes in here as well. So if they want to talk about something, great. It might be that we have a human trafficking victim that came in, and I'm not going to say I don't feel safe. Well, would you feel safe if we sat outside your tent, or we put you in the compassion cabin and we park one of our security routes? Yes, I would do that. Great. And let's do that. Yeah. So it's just something that they have a say in what it is. And if we can accommodate it, we do.
Yeah. Wow. So you're really listening to the needs of the person on an individualized basis.
Right. Well, as you know, the problem with the system is we have people that have never experienced homelessness themselves, have never experienced substance use themselves, or did way back in the day, or behavioral health issues. And we're trying to tell people that are experiencing this what they need. Mm-hmm. There's a place for those subject matter experts, but there's also a place to hear what's worked for the person, what's not. The biggest frustration our folks share with us is that they go to a new provider, and the new provider says, well, I'm going to do the exact same thing the other person did, and expect it to have a different impact. And it just doesn't. And so we're trying to kind of individualize for that person, because that person's traumas is different than the other personal feeling that they share.
Absolutely.
And that to me is really important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah. What about the resources regarding within this area? You work with a lot of different organizations. Can you talk a little bit about that part of the support here for
so for us, it's been kind of evolving for us.
Yeah.
We have a great partnership with Comprehensive, that's just phenomenal. The big thing is their CEO, Jody, has the same vision I have about it. That helps a ton when you're not doing that. And when, so we kind of got to the point now, Leah, where we don't partner with people that are just trying to personal empire build.
Yeah. I get it, Mike.
So I want someone saying with me to know if I hand them off to you, there's a relationship, there's trust there. You're going to treat them well.
Yeah.
Right. And if there's an issue, we're going to communicate about that. Not, I'm going to hand somebody off. They get treated like a number, and then I lose them to the street monster. And now I've lost credibility with them. I've lost all that relationship capital, and I'm off chasing them.
Right.
So that's what I love about Comprehensive. That there, I love Multi-Care's new approach to dealing effectively with the homeless, where, they're not just seen as, oh, you're bogging down my ER room. It's, okay, we're going to treat you, we're going to help you, and then we're going to call a shelter provider to come get you, which is us. But we'll take them to, mental health stability beds, detox beds, whatever barrier there was where they should be going, right? We've now made that kind of a fast on-ramp for them to be able to get there for it. And, to have multi-care be able to come down and say, what do you guys need, right? So, whether it's the nurses coming down to do light wound care for people or something like that, it's building relationships all the way around. And for us, that's a big catalyst for resources that we bring in, is they got to have the same heartbeat about building the relationship. Otherwise, if it's about padding their bottom line, then I'm not really interested in partnering.
Yeah.
Same with other shelters too. If somebody goes to another shelter and I hear they were treated poorly about that bothers me, because I'm the one that referred them to that shelter.
Yeah.
Right. And so we've actually cut ties with some of the shelters in the area, just saying, we don't agree with the way that you're treating people. We don't agree with some of the way you're judging people on the intake and stuff. So therefore, we'll just continue to up our capacity so we don't have to worry about people going there. And some of them have responded well to that. And some of them, well, we don't want to deal with, transgender. We don't want to deal with this. We don't want to deal with people with behavioral health issues. Okay, well, somebody needs to. And if you're not going to, then thank you for being honest, but we're going to send them to somebody that is open to that.
Yeah. So it sounds like those compassionate component
Oh, absolutely.
regarding treating an individual as they show, right? Just who they are, regardless of identity, ability, disability.
Yeah. And when I keep trying to communicate to some CEOs, it's not my belief system that I'm trying to force on somebody.
Absolutely.
Right? It's here's someone that's in need, right? It's not my job to judge them.
No.
Right? I don't have to agree with their lifestyle. I don't have to do any of that kind of stuff. But it's my job to try and take care of them to the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have another CEO that says, well, I'm going to actually sue the state so that I don't have to take people that are transgender into my homeless shelter, then I don't want to be affiliated with you, right? I don't want to be seen as you and I are shoulder to shoulder in this, because I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's really important because a lot of times providers, as you know, think that the people that we're serving are ignorant. Well, they read the newspaper.
Yeah.
They watch the news.
Right.
They're very in depth on what's going on. And so it's important to me that what comes off of our tongues as leaders is stuff that we back up.
Yeah.
And so if we're not doing that, then we just don't want to partner.
Yeah. I love that philosophy. And it's honest and it's direct as well, which is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's kind of coming through the pipeline? Talk about this next step and this next phase with partnering with legislative action within the states and within the community and the county, but also with comprehensive.
So with comprehensive, we're really excited about the behavioral health center that's going to be down here.
Yeah.
And that was a small act of God to get that done. And so, Jody and her lobbyists went to work. They really felt strongly about having that entrenched in the shelter.
Yeah.
As we looked around at other shelters, nobody really has a behavioral health center entrenched in the shelter.
That's right.
And then as we started building the compassion cabins, the shipping container conversions, we started talking, what if this happened? What if we had a place that would take the folks that are considered chronically homeless, right? That get pushed from doorway to doorway. And yep, there are a lot of extra grace required. But what if we actually had a place that said, we want them, bring them here, right? And we actually had the services here where they could literally walk from their cabin, walk less than 100 yards and meet with their therapists, their peer support, all that kind of stuff. What does that look like, right? A medical doctor, all that kind of stuff. Makes all the difference in the world. Right?
Yeah.
And so we started looking at this, and then we came across MTH Housing, which is mobile transportable housing out of Union Gap that builds everything from hotels to, they built the entire, Winter Olympic Village out of shipping containers.
They're incredible.
Right.
I am blown away by them.
And so they had a passion for this too. And they said, well, hey, we tried to do this 5 years ago. Nobody was interested in it. So we said, well, hey, can we come and you got to participate in some of the design features?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff where they're going, okay, well, Jody and Comprehensive felt so strong about this. Why don't we build our behavioral health center?
Absolutely.
And so that's what's coming down the line. So the behavioral health center will have a 30-person stand-yard classroom. We'll have 2 different sized group rooms that will hold at least a group of 10.
Yeah.
One will be set up specifically for people with autism. So the textures and all that kind of stuff will be there. We'll have a medical doctor on site. We'll have a nurse practitioner on site and all the offices that go with that. So 2 medical exam rooms. We have a dentist now that's interested in coming in as well, and providing dental services here. And then we'll have a behavioral health therapist and a mental health, behavioral health substance use disorders therapist on site as well, and peer support.
Okay.
Which is a lot. And then you add our case management system to wrap around that.
Yes.
And what we really try to do is make it where there's no gap where somebody would fall through gaps, right?
Got it.
They can walk out if they choose to. We're not holding them here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what we're arguing is, hey, we know this facility is coming online. We're doing all this stuff. Now with the grants pass decision that says cities can arrest people that can't be, we're saying, what if you didn't, right? What if we created a homeless court, per se? And because we have a mental health court here, we have a drug court here. Why don't we have a homeless court here? So instead of putting Bob in jail and giving him a $2,500 fine, he's never going to be able to pay, and squashing more. What if the judge simply said, I'm going to put you in a capacity cabin at Camp Hope. I'm going to order you to go through comprehensive treatment plan, whatever, and come see me in 90 days. We know from the capacity cabins that we have here that are already been very successful and only having some of the services comprehensive able to offer here. We've seen people, Leah, that have been chronically homeless 12 years. Now she's got a job. And part of the issue was she was using, because she was in a lot of pain from a kidney disorder that was misdiagnosed because she was always an addict.
Yeah.
Right? Which caused her to have behavioral health issues.
Of course.
So when we got all the way through this and we got her into the compassion cabin where she had her own tangible lockable door.
Yes.
Right? And she could bring her dogs, and it was her area, and she could go in there, and if she had a meltdown, great, right? Because as you know, they're kind of sound dampened.
Yes.
And there were people here that understood what that was. It's not police showing up. Nothing against the police, but they have a specific job. We have a different job.
Yeah.
And then she could go meet with a medical doctor that diagnosed her with this kidney disorder that was causing all the pain. So once we got the medical issue taken care of, I don't need these drugs anymore. I'm not in pain anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And then the behavioral health medication was even more potent because it's not being watered down with the street drugs. Right.
Yeah.
And so now we have a young lady that's thinking clearly. She's got her driver's license. She's got a job. She's ready to move out on her own. It's been a long 6 months for her, but instead of rapid rehousing her and just slamming her into an apartment, we actually treated the actual problem, not just the symptom.
Yes.
So we're super excited about that. The capacity, we'll be adding 15 more capacity cabins, which is 45 beds total. So that brings us up to almost 300.
It's incredible, right? 300 beds. Yeah.
It's cool. Because we're one of the only shelters that has a family shelter.
Yeah.
Young adults, single adults, veterans, people escaping human trafficking, all these different traumas here. And the thing that I'm the most proud of is we built a community out of it so they get their help. But we don't see the law enforcement down here like the other shelters do, right? So you hear the other shelters talk about, well, cities don't want them because they're high crime, all this stuff. We don't really have that. We see the officers here more dropping somebody off that they're bringing into the shelter. We probably see them 8 to 1 in terms of them dropping people off. Usually we have to call somebody. It's somebody from the outside that found the victim of the domestic violence here.
I see.
Or something like that. And that we need some help encouraging them not to do something stupid.
Yeah. So it's a very collaborative care model, and it's super trauma informed.
Sure.
As well.
Absolutely.
Which is quite incredible. What about outreach? Because I know we, in the community, we see your outreach bands and your team is out. So what are they doing? What are they looking for? How do they help?
So about 3 years ago, we went from outreach being just as on call to we actually have a deliberate outreach case manager. Mm-hmm. She has a system on board in her vehicle where she can look you up, see what we've done for you,
right,
what services you were connected to, all that kind of stuff. And then her job is trying to get you to come back into shelter where we can re-engage you with services.
Right.
And so we've now changed that again. So now we have a 24-hour model. Mm-hmm. So we're out during the day, we're out during the night, and people will see our kind of obnoxious black cars with the obnoxious yellow stripes. That's on purpose.
Yeah.
Because we have people that actually look for those vehicles now. And it's not just, I want a pair of socks. It's, hey, can you give me that number to the treatment provider you talked to about, right? Or whatever it may be. And so Darlene's been very successful getting people in. I cover the nights because it's a little bit different element out there at night.
Sure.
Right. And with my background in law enforcement and so on, a little more comfortable being out there myself. Mm-hmm. And then we have law enforcement partners as well. So we partner with law enforcement, fire, hospitals, business community, stuff like that. And then we try to be reactive to the storms we have. So when we have heavy snowfall, you'll see us out probably 16 hours a day just kind of making sure our friends that do choose street homelessness over shelter have some resources and know they can come in anytime. Our outreach also gives them cards. So we have an agreement with most of the law enforcement in the area that a homeless person can flag them down. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily going to run them for warrants or anything else like that, but they will call us on their behalf, or they'll bring them in too.
Yeah.
And so that's been huge. Our outreach responds to the hospital to take people to mental health stability beds, if needed, detox. Because the breakdown there, Leah, was the hospital didn't have that transport element, right? The ambulances weren't available, all that kind of stuff. So somebody's getting referred at 1 a.m. to go to detox. But how do you get the 3 miles there when you're under the influence, you're having all this stuff? Well, we go, and then we have a touch point with them, or we say, hey, if you're experiencing homelessness, when you're done with detox, here's what we can offer.
Yes.
Right? And we found that to be hugely successful. Mm-hmm. We're radio dispatched, so we can go anywhere in the state and still be in touch with our radios as well. Mm-hmm. And so we have a great relationship with law enforcement. So I'm really proud of our law enforcement really seeing this as not an opportunity to throw people in jail, but an opportunity to help people. And I think that's a game changer for us.
So you're really focusing on rehabilitation and providing supports in a collaborative way.
Yeah. So even when law enforcement goes out to these camps, that's a big thing in the news in our area, is they're taking us with them. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is not move or go to jail. It's you can't be here by law, right? But here's resources that are available to you.
Yeah.
And that's such a different approach as other communities are taking, because, jail is no place for our friends to be at all. And it just is counterproductive to what we're trying to do. And so I'm really glad that our sheriff sees it that way. The Yakima police see it that way. Moxie, some of the others in our area are seeing that way. And I'm getting the opportunity to go around the state now and kind of deliver the message at different conferences about it doesn't have to be homeless, go to jail.
Right.
Right. There's other resources and so on. And so the model of the outreach being a Monday through Friday, and if you can catch us during working hours, you might come out to, we're actively patrolling and looking for these folks, is becoming much more popular.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we're just trying to convince the people that control the dollars that that's a much more effective model than funding outreach teams that never really go out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes total sense. Yeah. What about legislative action? What's kind of next? What's needed? What's the next step?
But my big thing is I really want to get away from the Grants Pass lawsuit. And cities were really excited about throwing our friends in jail. And I think that's the worst thing that can happen to them. One, most jails aren't equipped to deal with them. Most of our friends get victimized in there because they're vulnerable, right? So where I'm really pushing our legislators, let's look at a next step model, whether it's Camp Hope or something like this, where people, the state hospitals have went away.
Yeah.
And some of our friends, as you know, really in the old days would have went to a state hospital and so on. But what if we had trauma-informed facilities such as Camp Hope or something like that they could still be here, be required to be here, be required to get treatment, but not be in a concrete 10 by 10 cell, right? What does that look like? Versus the Grants Pass model, which is if you fell asleep on our sidewalk, we're taking you to jail. To me, that's just silly. The other thing is let's destigmatize some of the drug stuff too.
Yeah.
And let's get to why are people using this stuff, right? What's really going on? What traumas are in their life that they're really doing this stuff for? Because I have yet to meet anybody that said, I get high because I just like to get high. No, they're always trying to escape something.
Agreed.
Whatever that would be.
It's a subconscious drive. There's no doubt about it.
And so what if I don't want to say decriminalize it, because I think the people that bring drugs should be held accountable in our communities. But I think that there should be a step. So I like our drug court model that we have here, but I think you can use some tweaks. It's a backup of the legislature, to kind of help with the laws for that.
Yeah.
Because what's going on now, everything is geared toward how do we hammer the person that's mentally ill, substance use disorder, that's sleeping along our freeway, instead of looking at why are they sleeping next to the freeway? Because everybody sees them, they feel safe there. That's why nobody wants to sleep on the freeway, but they feel safe there.
Yeah.
Right? Why are people sleeping under the underpasses? And I mean under the underpasses with spiders and everything else, because they feel safe there. Right? So my big thing is I'm trying to get the message across to people to understand that I believe that a community needs to have law and order, but I also believe there needs to be some exceptions and some other off ramps for people to to go. Just throwing everybody in jail doesn't fix anything.
Yeah.
And separating people from their kids and all that kind of stuff. There needs to be a way that we can keep the families together while mom deals with her behavioral health issues or whatever, without being, we take your kids from you, right? All this other kind of stuff. But what does that look like? And maybe we don't have the answer to it, but I think there at least needs to be a conversation. And I think out of all the shelters that I've visited, at least around our state in the Northwest, we're the most secure for something like that. We wouldn't have been 4 years ago. We had a completely different philosophy on that. But having been kind of hands-on and working with people, listening to their stories, it's a systematic failure across the board. Whether it's law enforcement failing them, whether it's medical providers failing them, misdiagnosing stuff. And now we've created an addiction issue, but yet we leave the person just out there.
Yeah.
And to me, that's wrong.
Fundamentally wrong.
Yeah. And instead of throwing millions of dollars, let's have a real conversation. I have no desire to be in a meeting to discuss the meeting to the meeting, but let's have a real conversation and let's give these communities an opportunity to customize what would work for their community. Because what works in Seattle probably won't work here.
Oh, agreed. It's a different demographic, different climate, culture.
However, I do think what we're doing here would work in Seattle for certain demographics and stuff like that as well. But if you made it scalable, right? But I see other communities like Pacific County, has about 100 homeless over there, and they don't have any shelter whatsoever. So the option is that law enforcement's picking up the homeless and transporting them to another city and dumping them off. Well, that's not dignified. It's not humane. And if that was my level, I'd be upset.
Yes.
So let's have the difficult conversation. Let's stop throwing money at the issue. Let's put the money where it really matters. And let's get these people some resources that they can really use to get their lives back.
Yeah. What do you want the public to know, Mike?
I want the public to know homelessness is not what you see on TV. And I know for a long time, that's what everybody seemed to think. It's always the junkie that's going to kill you, because it's glamorized in TV with that, right?
Right.
Where we have elderly here that can't afford their medication and rent. So they're here because they got to have the medication to live, right? It's not as simple as, and you've heard this too, why don't they just go get a job? How do you get a job when you have nowhere to live?
Yes.
Right? When you go in for the interview, the employer says, why do you have this gap? Right? I have people that want to work, but how do I do that when I have kids? I don't have a place to stay.
Yep.
No
daycare, no support.
Yep. I made this mistake. People want to just beat me over the head with for years and years down the road, right? What does that look like, Leah, if we actually had a program or programs that said, I don't care what your background is, right? So like here, we hire a lot of our homeless to stay here as interns.
Yeah.
And they do well. They get a chance at the full-time spot. So most of our monitors here have been street homeless themselves. Some of our case managers have been street homeless themselves. They're not in the same fleet they were when they came to the gate.
There's progression.
Right. There's progression, right? Yeah. And for me, it sends a clear message to people that I can get better.
Yeah.
It's a hard road, but I can get there. It's not going to change overnight. But I think for me, I want people to understand that everybody that you see street homeless has a story, and it's unique. You could line 10 people up and all their stories are going to be different.
Yeah.
If they're using substance abuse, it's not because they just want to be a junkie. And I hear that all the time from elected officials. Well, they're refusing services. Why are they refusing services? Right? It's not that they want to get high. It's they don't think that they can survive if they don't have that in their system, because we haven't given them anything to replace it with. Right? I mean, that dealing with people is they got to see that something here is greater than this.
Yes.
And we haven't done that. And as providers, my big deal is that we failed them as well, because for a long time we were trying to do the same thing another shelter was doing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, do you like vanilla or French vanilla? But it's the same thing. If you don't like vanilla at all, we got nothing for you. Yeah. Versus trying to create programs that are flexible, that will shape, and providers that will shape programs to meet your needs, not try to slam you into a.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other big thing is, I think that for people that want to work with homelessness, they need to know, does it require a degree? I don't have a degree. I got a high school diploma. It doesn't require a degree. It requires a heartbeat for it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see people that come in And sometimes they let you down because they fail. But the big thing is we try to get across to people they can refocus, right? Doesn't matter how many times. They didn't get that way overnight. We're not going to fix them overnight. It's going to be a struggle for them. And even for people that are in addiction or with behavioral health, every day is a fight. Right?
Pill battle.
Right. And so I think the public right now wants the quick fix, right? I mean, I call it DoorDash for homelessness. I want this fixed now. It's not going to happen now. But we see people getting better every day.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, can we create a system? Because the inlet to the funnel is massive and the output's very small. And that's because I think we really need to do a better job as providers as saying it's not about Leah, it's not about Mike, it's about helping this person. Yeah. Right. And that's the way we need to go.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, it's perspective as well. What about people who want to get involved? Volunteering or supporting, helping, what can they do?
So volunteering for us is different than other places, right? So I have some volunteer drivers that help drive people around, one of our vehicles, but we have some that help in the office with filing and stuff like that. But a lot of our volunteers are relational volunteers.
Yes.
So even the people that come down and serve dinner with their church group or whatever, we ask that they actually sit down and meet with people. It's not just here's a cheeseburger buy. I want that relational for our folks. That's number one for me. Number two is I want people that understand that you're going to be scrutinized by the people here. They're going to look at you differently until they know they can trust you. And that's really something that we've done as a society to them, not the other way around. Right? We've marginalized them. We've treated them poorly, so on. So that's just the way it is. The big thing for me is that people that want to support, they can give online. They can put check in the mail. They can do whatever it is. Whatever we get goes right to our folks that are here. Though, right? That's important to me. So like we have some people that give to what we call the Mercy Fund. And what our Mercy Fund is Leah, maybe you're staying with us and you decide you want to go back and be connected with mom that you now rebuilt a relationship with, and mom lives in Tennessee. You could apply to the Mercy Fund and we'll buy you the bus ticket to go. Right? You have to know that there's support on the other end. There's some other work that. But for some people, reconnecting the families of dog.
Yes.
Leah did really well, went out, got her own apartment, life happened, car repair or electric bill. You can apply for the Mercy Fund and we'll help you with that because you came from here and all that stuff. We want to be proactive with that. So we do all kinds of stuff. There's different ways people can get like that as well. So that's super important to us. Then you come out and volunteer with us on our cleanup days where we go out, clean up other homeless camps and stuff like that. It's not a judgment thing, but at the same time, we want our folks out there on the street. When we bring out our folks, they know from the street, they see that they're better, all this stuff. Sometimes that's the biggest thing for folks. If people want to serve with us on holidays, I tell people all the time, the best lesson my daughter ever learned was on Thanksgiving, handing out rolls. She's 7, and that still resonates in her head. Handing out rolls to somebody that was just so happy to get a roll on Thanksgiving, right, was the biggest lesson that you could ever teach your children too. And so we encourage people to bring your kids down.
Yeah.
You have to be here with them. You can't just drop them off.
It's not drop off.
Right. But we want this to be kind of a lesson for kids too, to see that people are humans.
Yeah.
And they make mistakes, and some of them are extra grace required, and some of them are doing really well. And so we have several different ways that people could plug in.
Yeah.
And we encourage them to do so.
I love that. And so what is the website for people to, donate to or reach out to you at Camp Hope here in Yakima?
So it's camphopeyakima.com is the website. And then there's a donate now. There's different things that will be up there, whether it's cash they want to donate to or one-time gifts or whatever, or we have a special need. So like we're gearing up for winter right now. So lightly used blankets, oversized sweatshirts, stuff that our friends can layer up in, heavy socks, stuff like that. In our donation center, we want to have that kind of geared up because some of our friends that we'll see on the street, they have nothing. And sometimes that warm pair of socks is the touch point they need to be able to say to come in.
Yeah.
And so on. And so that's kind of the biggest thing there. So there's always a donate now section where they can actually kind of decide what they want to give or comfortable give. But we also tell people this too: before you give, come down and take a tour.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Come take a tour. We'll show you. And if you feel called afterwards and you want to be involved, awesome. If you don't, that's okay too. But come down and take a look, because one thing I hear repeatedly from people that actually come down here, this is a lot different than I thought. And so that's the biggest thing. We want people just to come and see.
Yes. Come and see for yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you do have an event every year, is that correct? Can you talk about that?
So we have our gala,
Yeah.
which is a different than, it's a fundraising event, but it's different. So we share partnerships that we have. We recognize our partners that are there. We have residents share their testimonials. They're not forced. They're usually excited to share testimonials of them. It's a dinner. It's kind of a dress up dinner.
Yeah.
We hand out awards. So like last year we gave 4 life-saving awards to residents that actually found somebody that was in cardiac arrest and disregard can and saved them. So we want to celebrate that. So Sheriff Udell handed out the awards, stuff like that. It's a big deal for us, but it's a bigger deal for them.
Absolutely.
And so this year will be May 17th at 6:00. And so last year was a sold out event. We had almost 400 people there, and it'll probably be a sold out event again this year. Which is really cool to have. So, but we love having that kind of stuff, and not just so one, we can educate the public what we're really doing, but 2, the people that do support it can actually see where their money goes.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
huge.
It is significant. Well, thank you, Mike Kay, Executive Director of Camp Hope in Yakima, Washington, for being here today and allowing me to interview you.
Of course.
Are there any kind of final thoughts or things that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
No, I just think, even if they're kind of chilling, kind of keep watching what's going on, because we are going to be progressive and aggressive on trying to help our friends. And so, I think you'll see we're not one size fits all. And I think that's the way, as long as I'm in the chair, I'm in, it will always be that.
Thank you, Mike.
Right. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.